Welcome to Altea Talks, the brand new podcast series being brought to you by Altea, the unique provider of combined insurance and risk management solutions designed exclusively for the medical, allied health and care sectors. I'm going to be your host, Will Marshall, and I'll be joined in this series by some of the leading movers and shakers from across the sectors. My guests are going to include practitioners and professionals, regulators, clinical risk and governance specialists, and an array of legal experts who are going to help us get to the heart of the hottest topics affecting the UK's health and social care sectors today. So, if you're looking for frontline knowledge and expertise, if you want valued insights into these most dynamic, challenging and rewarding of sectors, then look no further because you're in the right place. Welcome again to Altea Talks. Hello and welcome to this latest episode of Altea Talks. I'm delighted today to be joined by Val Millington, who is a leading aesthetic practitioner based in Cobham in Surrey. Val's journey into the aesthetics industry began after leaving school, where she was initially offered a 4-year apprenticeship with the then Harrods Group to become a departmental buyer. It was this experience that led Val to fall in love with the cosmetic and beauty industry. Val moved to South Africa when she was a younger woman, and after completing her Cedesco diploma qualification there, as well as the British Confederation and DRE UK electrolysis qualifications, Val joined Sterix as their SA distributor in 1989. Val worked as a distributor for Sterix, and it was here that her passion for training in the sector really blossomed. Val became a leading trainer of electrolysis throughout South Africa, delivering advanced electrolysis courses in all the private and government colleges and universities. While she was in South Africa, Val chaired the South African Association of Health and Skincare Professionals, the professional body for the skin, body and nail care industry in that country. She also established Spa-Afrique, a niche spa chain based in Johannesburg, which she ran alongside her distributorship. Val eventually left South Africa and returned to her native UK in 2011, where she continued to provide training for Sterix and more recently set up V Aesthetics, her hugely successful aesthetics practice based in Cobham. Val now works part-time for herself, providing a range of advanced aesthetic treatments and sharing her undimmed passion for all things skincare with her very grateful and hugely appreciative clientele. Val, a very warm welcome to Altea Talks.
Thank you very much, Will. I think you've painted me a wonderful picture here. Thank you for that. Yes, I will be elaborating on some of those points as we go through today.
Thanks, Val. Shall we start by sort of going back to the beginning of the journey, really? You've enjoyed an extremely successful 3-decade career in aesthetics. You're well known for your passion about the sector generally and about skincare and about training and qualifications. But can you tell me a little bit about how you started out and what first inspired you to work in aesthetics?
All right. As you said earlier, I worked I did an apprenticeship with the Herodian Group. During that apprenticeship, you get to go around to many different departments to actually see what your niche is in the marketplace alongside your college studies. I met there a lady called Miss Elmsley, and I only ever knew her as Miss Elmsley because she was the buyer of the cosmetic department. And she used to walk past me and say to me, "You're in the wrong department." I was then studying to be in the leather luxury goods. So she said to me, "You belong in the cosmetic and beauty industry." I'm not quite sure what she meant by that, but I think it was probably more about my look than anything else. Anyway, I became her assistant for a couple of years before I finished my apprenticeship, moved on. And then pretty much after that, I went out to South Africa. I had relations that had moved out there about 10 years previously. And of course, were having a great and successful life out there. I loved the weather and applied for my South African citizenship, and we take it from there.
Thank you. And when you got to South Africa, or after arriving in South Africa, you applied to Sterix to become their SA distributor after completing your Cedesco diploma qualification.
Yes, that's kind of right, but there was quite a little bit of gap between that. I did my Cedesco diploma, which still today is recognised as the main governing body. And I think any therapist in the world, if she goes for a job and produces a CDESCO diploma, she has the likelihood of getting it. It is very cherished and sought after worldwide still today. I don't see it so much in the UK here, but I have a tendency to think that it's because of its cost and its length of time in learning. I also did a BABTEC, which is the British Confederation diploma, which it was available in South Africa. They follow very much the British route of training. I then came back over here and I did my DRE, Diploma Remedial Electrology, with the association here in the UK, and was lucky enough after I got my Sterix distributorship. And Bob Chapman, who was then kind of the lead or marketing director for Sterix, requested that I do my CPE, which is a Certified Professional Electrologist in the USA, which I did alongside him and Jill Morris, who headed up Sterix in those days. And then I took my distributorship to South Africa, which I was very proud of, and started training as well. Insurance requirements do not allow anybody with a distributorship to actually train on behalf of Sterix. However, we got around that by me training under my own umbrella, so to speak, but with Sterix very much by my side. And also when people bought their equipment, I could then train them in blend electrolysis. I went on to open my own school of electrolysis, which just went so nicely with the distributorship. It was very successful for me, and there was nobody else in South Africa doing this. So this meant that really I had a complete open market. And every single one of the CDESCO, CIBTAC, BABTAC schools, along with the private and government universities and colleges, used me for specialty training in this subject.
So it was there that you really developed your skills in training and in providing guidance and helping other people into the industry, as well as building up your own skill set and practice.
I would say that that's a yes to that in all ways, because it gives you a lot of good feeling about improving yourself and also helping and enhancing others. I not only did this in electrolysis, but I also very much did it in the spa side, especially when we got rid of apartheid and our people of colour were allowed to do far more. I had a lot to do with bringing some of those ladies into the industry to give them a good trade to follow on to help them to support their families.
Thank you. That must have been a very interesting time for you. Can you share some of the memorable moments or milestones from your career journey that have shaped your perspective and have contributed to your success?
Yes, like everybody that gets a degree, a diploma or everything, the diplomas that I achieved are obviously milestones for me. I think particularly having something like a CPE, which, I mean, nobody else in the country ever had. I'm not quite sure anybody over here would have it now, but so that was a good one for me. Also, my other milestones have got to be my SASP's chairpersonship. That was unfortunately short-lived because my husband was killed during my chairship, and I decided then I just simply couldn't do it. But I did enjoy it while I had it. SASPs is an amazing industry and has a bunch of amazing people in it. And it's been going for many, many years. And it still is today, and is still thought of as the body for the industry within South Africa. And I think my last milestone has to be opening Spa-Afrique, my small chain of health spas. And they followed with an African theme. I had caves built in them where we had jacuzzis and lots of beautiful carvings of African elephants and other African animals around the area. So yes, I think those were probably my biggest milestones.
Yeah, thank you. And you then moved back to the UK in 2011 and have set up V Aesthetics now in Cobham. Can you tell me a bit about the main treatments that you're providing currently in your practice and expand a bit on what inspired your passion for advanced cosmetic procedures, particularly electrolysis and electrocauterization?
Well, fundamentally, when I came back to England, the intention was to retire. I've had over 3 decades in this industry. However, it didn't happen. My passion for it set me out there again. And I set off. This time, it was just working for myself. I don't have anything else to achieve or anything else to aspire to. It is simply to do what I love and grow myself with it and educate my clients. And I love it. And I have small rooms in a Divine building in Cobham. I only work part-time, so it's no longer a full-time practice for me. But I think the thing that inspires me most was in 2014 when the removal of cosmetic blemishes came into play and was being taught by Sterics in the UK. In 2014, everything kind of came together with blemishes. Up till then, we obviously very much focused on hair removal electrolysis and a few blemishes, but this wasn't really regulated. And although I trained some of the blemishes like removal of skin tags, red veins and milia, which was then and has always been available to us, it wasn't put or regulated in a way of actually telling the student exactly what to do. A lot of it was open-ended as in things like, well, find your own point where the needle, gives you the correct amount of current. But that's not right. So in 2014, Sterics, alongside, I believe it's the training department of Birmingham, I think it's University Hospital, alongside Sterics and some of their dermatologists, actually spent many years on perfecting how we do these blemishes with electrocautery, because clearly it is the right methodology to remove blemishes. And as at that time, the NHS were no longer doing anything cosmetic, that was kind of shooed away. It seemed to be such the right route to go. And because I was so well trained in this and had been a trainer in it, I developed my journey in the blemish removal market, starting it off here and literally putting in a mummies groups around the area. What I did, I had a couple of nice adverts made saying that, I have 30 years in the industry, blah, blah, blah. And people just started to come. The advertising was free. People just started to come to me. And I developed the cosmetic or the beauty side of my business out of my blemish customers. They would contact me and say, my goodness, that was so simple. This blemish is gone. There's no trace. There's no scar. I went to a dermatologist or to some hospital, and they said, "Oh, well, if we cut this out for you, are you willing to trade the blemish for a scar?" And I would think in a lot of people's cases, the answer to that would probably be no. So I developed this totally out of my skill for blemishes, and it still comes in from all over and around London, not just Cobham. Today.
Thank you. That's quite a journey. And I understand that you're able to safely remove a wide variety of blemishes and cosmetic lesions with electrolysis. Can you talk about some of the most challenging cases that you've encountered and how you've approached them? And can you also tell me a little bit about what the results that you have been able to obtain mean for your clients, for your customers?
Well, today we have, I think it's 22 different types of cosmetic blemishes that we can remove. And that involves lots of things. Obviously, people know the skin tag. Most people can identify a skin tag, but a lot of people come along with things that they simply cannot identify. And a lot of the concerns for them go along the route of, do I have a cancer? Or skin cancer, should I say. And I think with obviously what's happening medically, they're not always able to get appointments with the right people. And so one of the big things I think I can do, I am accredited with Habia on something called MASKed, which is an association from the Skin Cancer Society to help practitioners like myself identify, firstly, the 3 different types of cancer and how we should approach that. So people come to me often for lots and lots of things that they do, but they don't know. So I generally, in my consultation, will give them a bit of a check over. I am not a dermatologist and I have no right to say to somebody, I think you have skin cancer. But when I have suspicion in my mind, I would say to them, all right, I think you need to get hold of your doctor and ask for a request for a dermatologist to have this particular lesion. And I normally take a photo of it, give them the photograph to have this particular lesion checked further.
Yeah. Can I just interject there? Because I think that's an important point, because you obviously have a great deal of experience in assessing skin and in this world. But how likely is it that a non-medically qualified aesthetic practitioner would know the difference between a benign or a non-benign lesion? And I think you've already sort of touched on this, but if you suspect that a lesion is potentially sinister, could be cancer, what steps would you take about, or would you encourage those practitioners to take about referring that client to see a doctor to get a medical opinion?
Right. So with your therapist, obviously you have your various levels, your MVQs, and upwardly. And of course, these cosmetic blemishes doesn't really come under beauty. It kind of sits to the side because a lot of medical practitioners do this as well. And you do not have to be a beauty therapist or an electrologist to take this course. A lot of nurses, a lot of doctors, and people like osteopaths, dentists, they have a huge, they know the human body. So they make good candidates to do this. So I don't necessarily attach this to the beauty industry. I think if you're just a normal therapist, I'd say just leave this one well alone. Don't go down those roads. If you see something on somebody's face, if you're doing a facial, you might sort of say, oh, I don't know what that is. Maybe you should let your doctor look at it and leave it at that.
Yeah.
None of us, obviously, even myself and those that have my experience, we're not allowed to go down those routes. It's not the right thing to do at all. And you'll see as we carry on how I project this all the way through with what I do. But yeah, so you were asking me on my own experiences of what I've come across. Some of the most difficult things have been, I'm going to say, eyelids, all right? And it's the skin tag that forms very close to the lashes or the rim of the eyes. I've had several in my career that have actually been on the lower rim of the eyelid, just in the lash line. I'm not suggesting that you tackle this. It's not that we can't, we can, but I think you need to have done this type of profession for a long, long time. I do tackle it, and it's quite easy for me to do because it's all about the way you manage to hold the eye and the way you talk your client through it. But I think those have been my most challenging, is removing skin tags off of eyelids or close to eyelids. My other challenging ones has been extremely large seborrheic keratoses. Sometimes keratosis gets really large. I've got some funny stories in it. I had two gentlemen. One of them was a client of mine, and his friend was being dragged by him. And he said, I've just been on holiday with this guy. He said, and we've been sitting on the beach. He said, and he's got something on his leg, and all the flies in Spain wanted to sit on it. And he said, I'm bringing him to you. I'm not taking him anywhere again unless you take that off. That took me about 6 sessions. It was an extremely hard job to do, but I got there in the end. I didn't know if I could because of the size of it, but I did in the end. And another one that I had that, although this wasn't challenging, it's one that stays in my mind quite a lot. I had a really, really pretty young lady. I would put her somewhere 19, 20, 21. And she'd been sent to me by the headmistress of the college that she actually went to. And that particular lady had been to me for treatment. And this poor girl, this pretty, beautiful young woman, intelligent, the whole lot, had a skin tag hanging off the end of her nose. And she'd been to the doctor, and they said, no, sorry, we don't remove cosmetic blemishes. I understand that. I understand with the state that we are going through with the NHS right now, there is no time for something that is trivial and cosmetic. However, the psychological effect on that young woman must have been huge because I saw the skin tag before I saw her. All right. Yes, those are the wonderful things when you do something for somebody like that. Because they've been rejected medically, they simply don't know what to do. They might look online, they see they can go up to Harley Street. There's plenty of dermatologists in the area doing things like that. But sometimes these come with overkill because I said to you regarding the scars, maybe they want to give them some kind of an anesthetic. And the huge amount of costs. I mean, sometimes it's like $250 to be told that you have the skin tag, before anything is. So this type of service is, I think, absolutely amazing. I mean, it makes people so happy. I mean,
and in that case, you were talking about you were able to remove the skin tag, and
absolutely, it took me 2-3 minutes.
And it must have had a transformative effect for this girl.
Absolutely, and for those that have it in their eyesight, and for somebody that has something that is so large on them that everybody would look at that before they looked at you. And more so with women, and this does come with other things as well, like wrinkles, etc., etc. What happens is they start to become obsessed with something, and every time they look in the mirror to do their hair or their makeup, they see a something first of all. It might even just be a milia, but that's what they see. So I think it's an incredible service, yeah. And yes, those are some of my amazing experiences, yes.
It must be incredibly rewarding.
It is.
And what may be objectively trivial to some people, as you say, is it can be incredibly psychologically damaging
to a
and
person,
important to a person.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Can we just move on to talk about some of the more invasive injectable treatments? And can you talk me through some of the key do's and don'ts for working with those for treatments such as Botox and fillers and so on?
Right. So this is my opinion. Please accept it for that. All right. I was taught the industry of skin and absolutely everything about it. There are lots of injectables, and I do quite a lot myself. The injectables I do come under the microneedling and the mesotherapies, which means basically fundamentally you're working in skin. So when you get to Botox and fillers, which are the more invasive ones, they are beyond skin, all right? They are into muscle and into between fat and bone. So as far as I'm concerned, that's out of my scope of practice.
The government's intention is to introduce a mandatory licensing scheme for aesthetic practitioners, non-surgical practitioners, and also for their premises as well.
Well, I have that. It's up in the corner one, and there it's green. That one. So you see, when I started with Sterix and when I started training for them, all right, they told me straight away, you have to get the license here. All right, we won't let you do this unless you're licensed.
So your premises here is licensed?
Licensed. I am licensed. It is licensed. And I had to have a training certificate as well from from the hair and beauty industry to allow me to train.
But presumably your view is that mandatory licensing scheme can't come quickly enough from what you were saying to me.
Absolutely. I really, really think that. As I say, not for me, but for the future girls coming along the line. Yes, you have to. And my license was issued by my Elmsbridge borough. And I thought it to be, I must say, relatively thorough. I had to provide all my qualifications, how long I've been doing this, that, and the other for. They also inspected.
That's your license for the premises, yeah?
Well, it's both. It's both. In my book, I have two separate ones, but the one that's on the wall that has to be displayed says that, I've got the license for both. But I'm hoping that if this licensing does come about, that it's not left for the individual borough, because I have heard some boroughs are very, very strict and some are not. So I hope that if the government do put a license together, that the license is administered by them. And that's the same for absolutely everybody.
I think that is the intention, to have a national licensing regime and to have national standards that would be applicable to obtain the license, both in terms of the individual and the premises. Certainly, my understanding from having sort of read around it and so on is that one of the main concerns is that there is this very uneven approach to it across the country. So, as you say, depending on where you are physically, you might have a borough that is, setting quite a high bar, but elsewhere there would be no equivalent. And in terms of qualifications, it's currently, there's an ongoing consultation about what the licensing scheme is going to look like and what the qualifications and training and so on are going to entail. I think there is some concern across the sector that's going to be affected by that about the potential cost involved. Do you see that as being a potential barrier to younger people wanting to make their way in this profession? Or do you think that is a necessary cost to ensure and protect public safety?
I think it's a necessary cost. I mean, if you decide to become a professional in anything, it's going to cost you. I mean, if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist, whatever you want to be, it doesn't come cheap. But at the end of the day, when you're qualified, you don't charge cheap. So I think it should be the same for this. The costs, you should look into it carefully. Yes, you have to bear the costs for training. Absolutely. I personally don't have any issue with that.
And one of the other features of this particular sector or these sectors is that it evolves at such a fast pace. There's always new treatments coming online. There's evolution of existing treatments. It seems to me that there's this sort of constant churn, really.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Yeah, exactly.
Even for me, I mean, if I look at myself 5 years ago to what I knew then to what I know now, even as somebody who'd actually finished all my training, something comes in your face and we've got a new... That's a lot to do with ongoing technology. I mean, for instance, I don't even think it's a year, the introduction of polynucleotides and exosomes into the industry has been just so exciting. I've loved every minute of learning about them. And yes, of course, I want to put them in my practice. So yes, never stops.
Can you tell me a little bit about those?
Well, this is all obviously based on our technology and science and as things progress. Your polynucleotides, let's start with those because they're a little bit older than the other one. I think they've probably been around a couple of years. They are the first time we've seen something that is injectable that can actually repair the skin from the inside. When you use topical products on the surface of the skin, obviously it's on the surface of the skin. Your skin is your barrier. It's your defense mechanism to protect the organs of your body. So it doesn't really let an awful lot of stuff through and it doesn't let an awful lot of stuff happen. It turns over the top of the skin cells and will obviously give you a better glow and more radiance. But when you're talking about what can happen internally in the skin, it becomes a little more difficult. From an injectable's point of view, neither Botox nor filler do anything actually for the skin themselves. They are anatomy alterers. So when they wear off, they need to be repeated and so on and so on. So your polynucleotide is derived from salmon sperm. Our scientists have said that the DNA of it is very similar to that of our own, and it has the ability to repair the skin from the inside by strengthening the skin, repairing scars, even stretch marks, generally retexturizing the skin and giving a stronger mechanism and barrier to the skin. And I've been using them under the eyes and around the mouth now for several months, and I am knocked out with the results. It's absolutely wow. More recently, we have the introduction of the exosome, which is a very similar thing. It's to repair the skin from the inside, but it comes into it from a different angle. This comes in of completely synthetic, man-made technology of our DNA. And this, again, has the same repairing qualities from the inside of the skin. Now, this at the moment is literally weeks old. I received my first pack of it a couple of weeks ago, and I've been on a few good podcasts with some of the distributing companies online that have their doctors that have been researching it and using it. So I'm actually, funny enough, starting today with my very first exosome treatment. Again, reading through the lines, I believe this is even a step up on the polynucleotide. So, and from the pictures I've seen, I'm expecting absolutely marvelous results. Now, this one has actually been, I think it's FDA, is what, when they say things are on label and off label. So when something's on label, it's fully FDA'd, it's out there for anybody that is qualified in it to use. So the polynucleotides are on label for all of us who are qualified to use. The exosomes at the moment are on label only for using with microneedling. The meso or the injectable side of it still has to come. We have no doubt that that won't happen. It will. But I'm starting today with my first client with the exosomes. Now, It's expensive. This doesn't come cheap. So in my consultations for my ladies that have been doing microneedling and mesotherapies and explaining it to them, I can't believe, although I'm adding a lot to their treatment, if you explain it right and and I have to say to them, look, for me, this is new, but it's also new for everybody else, right? This is a technology that we have to embrace. Look at our scientists. They've told us that this is medical technology for the skin, and that we are able to now repair our skins from the inside. Most of the stuff we apply is hyaluronic acid in some form or the other. Sometimes it's with amino acids, minerals, vitamins, etc., etc. Sometimes it's cross-linked, non-cross-linked, etc., etc. Hyaluronic acid gives a wonderful glow to the skin. It can give firming and plumpness, and it certainly hydrates the skin, but it is not a skin repairer. The nearest thing we have to skin repair is obviously in the machine side, being microneedling and various lasers.
Yeah. Wow. So quite a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think exciting times, but it just demonstrates, doesn't it, the way that these new technologies, these new products and treatments are coming onto the market that are making a huge difference. And how important is it, in your experience, for the professional, for the practitioner, to keep themselves abreast and informed and educated about these new treatments and new procedures and developments as they evolve?
Well, I'm not sure if they don't do that they will have at the end of the day a successful business, because human beings, especially in today's world, and especially with the young people, it's all about what you look like. Everything about what you look like. So, I mean, this is a monster of an industry. So I would say to you, if you don't keep up with it, then you're not going to be very successful.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well. I mean, it is a monster of an industry.
It's a monster.
Why do you think it's become such an important part of so many people's lives in the last decade or so? I mean, when I was growing up, I don't remember it being such a big thing about, having treatments to improve how you look to yourself and to others. What is it about aesthetics that makes it so important now for so many people?
Now, I've got to think of the answer to that because, yes, like you will, growing up as a young woman, yes, I mean, obviously I got into the beauty industry very early in my life. So although obviously in those times I knew nothing like I know today, but I always knew, let's say, the benefits of using a sunblock. And I can go back to myself as a very young woman and making friends in South Africa when these young girls decided they wanted to sit on a corrugated iron roof with a pot of baby oil or olive oil. And I would say, no, you don't do that. You need to use the sunblock. And they say, oh, you're such a ninny. I still have some of those friends today, and every single one of them has looked at me and said, I think we should have listened to you. I said, yeah, you do, with your brown spots and your red veins and your crinkles and wrinkles. Yeah. So why has it become so? I guess this is all, the only thing I can say is it's about expectations that's come out of social media. If we didn't have your Facebooks, your Instagrams, your TikToks, your Snapchats and all the rest of it, it's just put a pressure and demand. But I actually feel quite sorry for the young, because if you're kind of not hot and happening, it's going to influence your life quite badly on, and the quest to make yourself more beautiful. But then again, of course, people come with expectations that you cannot fulfill.
Yes, so that sort of moves us neatly on to something that you've touched earlier, which is about communicating with your clients. And particularly, you mentioned it in the context of talking about these new skin treatments, but particularly in managing expectations and making your clients aware of what they can realistically expect to achieve with the treatment. And can you just talk me through a bit about that and about how you go about communicating with your clients and making sure that they're fully informed and on board with the treatments that you're both agreeing that they should have?
Absolutely. Your consultation is your most important thing. Without that, you run the risk of all sorts of things happening. So from the blemishes aspects of things, I can pretty well give somebody an outcome. All right. The outcome will be, I will not scar you. I will not mark you. You may have to have more than one session. You may be quite red for quite some time while your new skin grows, and it grows back to match up your other skin. So those things I give in the consultation. So that one is pretty, this blemish will go. All right. It might not be one session, but by the time you've had 2 or 3, it's going to go. All right. And I've never had a no on it. So, but then when you come to the aesthetic or beauty side of things, that's very, very different. People's expectations, they sometimes, and I've heard this a lot from hairdressers as well, sometimes somebody will bring you a picture or something like that. I want to look like that, all right? That's not always possible. So don't expect something that is not possible. So I'm very clear on expectations, because if they're expecting something that I can't give and we're not clear on that, they're going to be disappointed. Now, a disappointed client is one that you don't want, because she will tell all her friends, don't go there, that was rubbish. I wasted all these thousands of pounds and got nothing. But having the one that goes out there and sells it for you, which is what I do, because I've tried advertising, I've spent fortunes on it, it doesn't work, you never get anybody from it. It's when Mary says to Jane, you got to go to V because look what she did for me. So yes, that is very important. The consultation is very important. And one thing, I've sometimes talked myself out of things, because a lot of people come and they know nothing about this industry. And it is, as we said, a monster, and it has become a monster. And people read in the magazines, but it just confuses them more and more and more. And now that we've got into things like active ingredient skincare, people come understanding what is a hydrochloric acid, and what is this and what is that. So it's really bamboozled the public. So what I normally would say in my consultation to somebody, and I will say this to therapists that want to do this, be honest. Not everything is right for the client that is sitting in front of you. Be big enough to say, you've asked me for so-and-so, but I don't think that's the right thing for you. I think you should have so-and-so, all right? So be honest in that, because you at the end of the day are the one that knows what will and won't work. And another thing, and I say this particularly to young women, before you get into this lot, all right, with some stuff with me, and maybe you go for some Botox, and maybe you go for some fillers, and maybe you chase the Morpheus 8 and this, that, and the other, this comes with high prices. All right. You can spend 10 grand easily on yourself a year if you want to go the full hog. All right. What you've got to look at as a young woman, you might be able to do it now. You're single. You're earning good money. So you're going to meet the guy. You're going to have to buy the house. You've got the mortgage. You've got the kids. You are not going to have this money. And I'm going to tell you right now, you go into this too deeply with too much of this stuff. And when you can't do it anymore, you are going to end up in depression. And I really, really mean that. And I've said it to a lot of younger women, and they've stepped back. And I've sometimes said, okay, don't go down this path. Let's go down something else, which is a simpler route, easier for you to maintain. And my one answer to that is going to have to be microneedling. It can be amazing, and you don't have to do it that often. It doesn't have to be that expensive. And it is a great repairer, rejuvenator of your skin without altering your anatomy. And I think if you listen to some of the American Doctor Dermatology podcasts, because the American dermatologists are not like our dermatologists here. Most of them have got themselves into the cosmetic industry because they earn a lot of bucks from it. Whereas ours here definitely are more towards skin conditions and medical problems with the skin. So I'm always up and honest with them. And I think it's one of the reasons why I keep them. And so many of them have said to me, I trust you. If you tell me this is what I need, I trust you. I have built a trust in you. And often when I go to a salon, somebody wants to sell me something. I've got 20 products in front of me. And if I don't have these 20 products, my face is going to fall off. So it's about giving the right answers, giving a correct consultation, saying if you think that what they want is the wrong thing, telling them what the right thing is, and gaining trust. And it's all about the consultation. The consultation in the beginning is your be-all and end-all.
And do you think it's important for people to be given time to consider their options as well?
I normally do. All right. Normally when somebody approaches me with a new, how I work is like this. With the blemishes, it's slightly different from the skin. So normally with the blemishes, they'll say, now people tend to call everything a mole. All right. And I would say probably 7 out of 10 times it's not, it's something else. So they'll write and they'll say, I think I've got some moles that need to come off. So my first questions are going back to them and saying, right, first of all, I'd like a picture. All right. Can you send me a picture of what you want removed? So then we analyze it, we look at the picture and I tell them what it is. And if it is a mole, whether or not I require a doctor's letter for this, blah, 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 blah. So if it's something simple like a skin tag and I know I can remove it, then I'm going to say, right, well, we will do your consultation. You will tell me, okay, then. If you decide not to, there's no charge. Are you willing to walk away? But I think you will probably want the skin tag gone. So we'll do the treatment at the same time. And then it's a round figure. All right. If you take just a consultation, okay, then I'm going to charge you £25, regardless of what the consultation is. That £25 is redeemable on anything that you should take with me as a treatment. So I think that's a win-win situation. If you go away, you know what you've got, you know what you should do, you know what you can have done from an honest opinion. And, well,
And if you decide to go ahead, then,
it's
redeemable.
You're going to get $25 off your treatment. It didn't cost you anything. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we sort of talked around the subject a great deal. And I just wanted to wrap it up really, Val, just by asking you if you could sort of look into your crystal ball, looking ahead, what sort of trends do you foresee in your field of advanced cosmetic procedures? How do you think those are going to sort of develop over the next few months and years?
Well, I think I think this isn't going to crash and burn. This is going to go on and on and on. And there are just so many different types of practitioners in this. We go from everything from your plastic surgeons down to people like me and even people that have much less experience than me. So I think all of us can add something to it. I have to go back and I think that it's the social media thing. It's just going to carry on and carry on. With technology, with AI, we're now going to come into a lot of visual aesthetic things where therapists, doctors too, need to be trained on, when you get a client in front of you, analyzing the type of face that they actually have, all right? Not just saying, well, we can put a Botox here and a fillers here. Looking at, do we have someone with a small face with big features like myself, all right? Or do we have somebody with a larger face with smaller features, such as smaller eyes, smaller mouth, something like that? So there are certain treatments and certain makeups and things that suit some type of the sector over and the other. Like if you have someone like me, then you probably want to go down the volumizing treatments. You probably want to do that. You probably want to jack my eyes up heavily, this, that, and the other. Whereas with somebody that doesn't have those, it's perhaps not good to focus on that, but to focus on skin more and making sure the skin is beautiful. So I think we need to learn more about when we look like a plastic surgeon does, all right? When he looks at you visibly and aesthetically. Now, I worked when I was in South Africa. I didn't work with him, but I worked on a lot of his clients for a particular plastic surgeon in Cape Town. This guy for me was a miracle maker. The stuff that I saw him do was incredible, but I knew that he would say a lot of no's to people. And I sent one of my friends to him. She had a lot of money. She wanted to do all sorts of stuff. And he turned her down flat. He said, with what I could do to your face would not balance your body. All right. And so I think with the way that they work in this amazing being able to recognize that person's actual look, that person's features, their body shape, their body type, is their face going to go with their body? If they're a bigger person. So I think we need to learn that. And that's going to give us a lot of insight on the type of treatment that person, and that could be for makeup as well, hair as well. All right. Because the lot is one big monster
it's
together.
It's the big holistic
picture. It's the big holistic picture. Yeah, it's the big thing. So what we could actually give people as an all-round thing. Now, you're going to have to be pretty jacked in your training for all of that. But I think that's where we're going to go. And hopefully with the younger girls that move into on my side of the industry, they will get themselves trained really properly and just move with this, just move with it every year. I had one therapist, an older woman like myself, very proudly say to me, she hasn't changed a thing that she did for the last 25 years. I actually thought, no comment, Valerie, don't go down that road. No. I said, oh, that's interesting.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you so much again for your time and for sharing so many interesting insights and stories and just telling us so much about your world. It's a really fascinating area and I know you're very passionate about it and that really comes across. So thanks so much, Val. Really appreciate that. And it's been a pleasure to have you on Altair Talks.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you for giving me the honour to talk. It's a great honour and absolutely great. So go with it out there, girls. Make sure you've got lots of qualifications. Develop your own skills.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Altair Talks. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe or leave a like or a review on whatever platform you're listening on, as this helps spread the word. If you have any questions or comments or topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes, please do contact us as we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on LinkedIn or visit our website at www.altairinsurance.com. Stay tuned for more episodes and until next time, take care of yourselves. The information contained in this podcast is not intended to represent a complete analysis of the topics presented and is provided for information purposes only for practitioners in the UK. The views expressed are personal to Valerie Millington and Will Marshall and do not necessarily represent the views of V Aesthetics or of Altair Insurance Limited. The content of this podcast is not intended as legal advice, and no responsibility can be accepted for any reliance upon it. Independent legal advice should always be obtained before applying any information to particular circumstances.